In the quiet town of Crestwood, a chilling mystery began to unfold when 28-year-old Emily Carter vanished without a trace. Her last known whereabouts were at a local cafe, where she had planned to meet a friend. But she never showed up. 4 days, the community held its breath, plastering her smiling face on every lamppost and storefront window. The search was frantic, desperate, a race against time that everyone knew was ticking away too fast. The grim discovery was made a week later by Ryan Keller, a former close friend of Emily's. He found her body in an old, derelict house on the outskirts of town, a place they used to explore as teenagers. The scene was heartbreaking, and for the police, it was also suspicious. Why was Ryan there? He claimed an anonymous tip had led him to the location, but investigators were skeptical. Their focus quickly narrowed, and Ryan, the one who found her, became the prime suspect. Under interrogation, Ryan's story seemed to crumble. He admitted that his friendship with Emily had soured after she married Daniel Carter. He confessed to feeling jealous and resentful. The police built their case around him. A spurned friend, obsessed and dangerous, the media ran with the story, painting Ryan as a cold-blooded killer. It seemed like an open and shut case, but one detective, a seasoned investigator named Miller, felt a nagging sense of doubt. Something just didn't add up. Detective Miller decided to dig deeper, not into Ryan's past, but into Emily's life with her husband Daniel. On the surface, they were the perfect couple. Daniel was a charismatic and successful businessman, publicly grieving for his lost wife. He had a solid alibi for the night Emily disappeared. He was at a business dinner several towns away, with witnesses to prove it. He seemed untouchable. But Miller's persistence paid off when he uncovered a sealed juvenile record. Daniel Carter. It turned out had a history of violence, including a serious assault charge that had been expunged when he turned 18. This revelation changed everything. The investigation pivoted. Miller's team began re-examining Daniel's life with a fine-tooth comb. They discovered that his company was on the verge of bankruptcy. More disturbingly, they found out Emily had recently consulted a divorce lawyer and was planning to leave him. Suddenly, Daniel had a powerful motive. He stood to lose everything, not to mention the large life insurance policy he had taken out on Emily just 6 months prior. His alibi, while seemingly perfect, started to look a little too convenient, a little too well. The final piece of the puzzle fell into place when tech analysts traced the anonymous tip that led Ryan to the abandoned house. It didn't come from a random concerned citizen. It came from a burner phone, purchased with cash a week before Emily's disappearance. Security footage from the store where the phone was sold was grainy, but it showed a man with a build and gait strikingly similar to Daniel Carter. The trap had been set not for Emily, but for Ryan. Daniel had allegedly committed the perfect crime, framing his wife's old friend to take the fall while he played the part of the grieving husband. It was a calculated, cold-hearted plan designed to mislead everyone. The case against Ryan Keller was dropped. He was released, his name cleared, but the emotional scars would remain forever. Daniel Carter was arrested and charged with the murder of his wife. The man who had convinced a whole town of his grief was revealed to be a monster hiding in plain sight. It's a haunting reminder that the truth is often buried beneath layers of deception, and the most convincing lies are sometimes told by the people we think we know best. Thanks for watching, and if you found this story compelling, be sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the mysteries that hide just below the surface. After speaking with Daniel, detectives widened the circle. They turned to people closest to Emily. Friends, roommates, family. One friend stood out. Lena. She had been Emily's closest confidant. She knew the marriage was collapsing. She knew the fear. Lena said Emily planned to leave Daniel for good, not someday. Soon, Emily had packed a bag. She had saved money. She was preparing an exit. That detail mattered, because people planning freedom are rarely planning death. Lena also revealed something else. Emily had been meeting Daniel secretly, not to reconcile, to settle paperwork, to finalize the separation. One meeting was scheduled just days before Emily vanished. Detectives revisited Daniel's timeline. He said he stayed home all evening. But Lena's phone records told another story. Emily's phone pinged near Daniel's neighborhood, not once, twice. Then it went silent. Investigators checked traffic cameras. One image stood out. A dark SUV, similar to Daniel's, captured near the abandoned house that night. The plate was unreadable, but the timing was perfect. Still, they needed more. Without physical evidence, Daniel was untouchable. So detectives waited. They watched, and Daniel made a mistake. At Emily's memorial, hidden cameras caught everything. Daniel leaned over the casket, stared too long, whispered something no one could hear. Then he took photos, not of flowers, not of family, of Emily's body. That moment changed everything, because grief does not look like that. And neither does innocence. The photos from the memorial shocked investigators. Daniel didn't cry. He didn't flinch. He studied Emily's body, frame by frame. That behavior triggered a quiet decision. Detectives would stop watching and start applying pressure. They brought Daniel in again. This time, the tone changed. No sympathy. No soft questions. Only facts. They told him about the traffic camera. They mentioned the phone pings. They asked about the SUV. Daniel stayed calm. Too calm. He said the photos were a closure. He said grief looks different for everyone. But then came the question he wasn't ready for. Why did his phone connect to a tower near the abandoned house? Daniel hesitated. Just for a second, he blamed bad signal routing. Carrier errors. Technical mistakes. A rehearsed answer. But detectives already knew the truth. Another device had been active nearby. A second phone. A burner, purchased weeks earlier. Paid in cash. Activated once, then destroyed. The timing matched Emily's disappearance. Still, there was one problem. No DNA, no weapon, no confession. So investigators changed tactics. They looked for someone Daniel trusted, and they found her. A teenage girl. Quiet, easily overlooked. Her name was Mia. She lived in Daniel's house. Not as family, not as a tenant, as something else. Something secret. And she knew more than anyone realized. Mia was 17. Young, quiet, and deeply afraid. Detectives brought her in gently. No pressure at first. No accusations, just questions. They asked about Daniel, about the house, about the night Emily vanished. Mia avoided eye contact. Her hands shook. She said Daniel was protective. She said he worried too much. But then the questions sharpened. Did Daniel leave the house that night? Mia paused, then nodded. She said he left after sunset. He wore dark clothes. He told her not to wait up. Hours passed. When Daniel returned, his hands were scratched. He went straight to the shower. Too straight. Mia said he washed his clothes. Late. In the sink, she remembered the smell. Metallic. Sharp. Blood. Detectives leaned in. They asked about the car. Mia swallowed hard. She said Daniel told her never to mention the SUV. Never. He said it wasn't important. But it was. The SUV had been seen near the abandoned house. That detail had never been public. Mia couldn't have guessed it. Her story changed everything. Still, detectives needed more. They asked about messages, texts, calls. Mia hesitated again. Then she admitted it. Daniel had shown her something. A message from Emily, sent the day she disappeared. It said only 3 words. We need to talk. Daniel was furious. He paced the room. He slammed his phone down. He said Emily was ruining everything. That night, he told Mia he was going to end it. She thought he meant the argument. She was wrong. Detectives exchanged a look. This was motive. This was timing. But they still needed proof. They thanked Mia. They promised protection. As she stood to leave, she said one last thing. Daniel told her no one would ever find Emily, because he planned it right. That sentence changed the case. Now, investigators weren't chasing doubt. They were chasing a killer, and Daniel knew it. Detectives moved fast, too fast to warn him. They pulled records, phone data, location pings. Daniel's phone told the story. The night Emily vanished, his signal went dark. Then it came back. Near the old house. Near the woods. That gap mattered. It wasn't random. It was deliberate. Investigators checked cameras. Gas stations. Quiet roads. One camera caught the SUV. Headlights off. Late hour. Same model. Same damage on the bumper. A fresh scrape. Paint transfer. Emily's car had the same mark. That wasn't coincidence. They brought Daniel in again. This time, the tone was different. Calm. Controlled. Daniel smiled. He said he barely slept that night. He said stress did that. They asked about the scratches. Is Saeed hiking? They asked about the clothes. He said spilled oil. Lie after lie. Each one rehearsed. Then they mentioned the message. We need to talk. Daniel froze. Just for a second, but it was enough. His jaw tightened. His voice dropped. He asked, who said that? Detectives didn't answer. They let the silence work. Daniel leaned back. He said Emily was dramatic. He said she liked attention. They asked why he deleted messages. He said his phone glitched. They showed him the data. No glitch. Manual deletion. One by one, Daniel stopped talking. He asked for water. He asked for a break. They denied both. Then they showed him something else. A fiber. Found in the basement, matched to his jacket. Daniel's smile vanished. His hands trembled. He whispered that it meant nothing, but it meant everything. The room felt smaller. The walls closer. Detectives didn't push. They didn't need to. Daniel stood up suddenly. He said he was done. He said he wanted a lawyer. As he was escorted out, one detective spoke quietly. Emily trusted you. Daniel didn't respond. But his eyes said enough. Outside that room, warrants were already being signed. Search teams were moving, because now they knew where to look, and what they would find would end this story forever. Before sunrise, the search began. Teams moved quietly through the woods, radios low, boots on dirt. They returned to the abandoned house Daniel claimed he'd never visited. The dogs hit a scent almost immediately, leading them past the basement, out the back door, and into the trees. The ground there was uneven, the leaves disturbed. Someone had been digging. Officers marked the spot and carefully started to clear the soil. Minutes stretched into hours. Then, a shovel hit something solid. It wasn't rocky, it was fabric. A silence fell over the team as they uncovered a jacket. Emily's jacket, neatly folded. A few feet away, they found her phone, screen cracked, tossed aside with force. As they dug deeper, the truth surfaced. Emily's body was there, wrapped and hidden. This wasn't a crime of panic. This was premeditated. Back at the station, Daniel sat watching the clock, unaware. Detectives entered the room, their faces grim. No small talk. They laid photos on the table, the jacket, the phone, the burial site. Daniel stared, his breathing becoming shallow and fast. They told him Emily had been found. They didn't need to accuse him. He asked one question. How bad is it? That single question was a confession. They laid out the evidence, the fibers, the messages, his cars, GPS data, the details of the burial. Each word was another brick in the wall closing in around him. Daniel put his head in his hands and stayed silent for a long time. Finally, he whispered that it was an accident. He claimed they argued, that she threatened to leave, that he just lost control. But accidents don't get buried. They don't get erased with such care. The detectives let him talk, every word sealing his fate. When he was finished, they read him his rights. Daniel didn't resist. He looked almost relieved, like the running was finally over. As he was led away, the chilling truth settled. Emily hadn't vanished. She had been silenced by the person she should have trusted most. Weeks turned into an exhausting grind for investigators. Every lead seemed promising, but ultimately went cold. The husband, now living under a different name, had vanished without a trace. No phone, no social media, no bank activity. He'd erased himself. But people always leave a trail. Detectives went back to the timeline, re-examining every minute of the night his wife disappeared. That's when they found it. His phone had gone silent. It pinged a cell tower for just a few minutes, near an industrial road on the edge of town, a place he swore he'd never been. This single digital footprint changed everything. They pulled traffic camera footage from that road. It was grainy, but one vehicle stood out. A dark SUV with the same model and same distinct damage on the rear bumper. Now they had something real. They re-interviewed his friends and co-workers. The consensus was unnerving. He was too calm, showing no grief, no panic. One co-worker recalled a chilling detail. The day after his wife vanished, he made a quiet, dark joke, as if testing the waters. Then came an unexpected break. A young woman, barely an adult, had been seen with him after the disappearance. She wasn't family or a friend. She was someone new. Investigators tracked her movements and messages, noticing she had gone silent right around the time he fled. It became clear she had run with him across state lines. The case transformed from a murder investigation into a federal manhunt. Authorities quietly alerted other agencies, sharing his photo internally to avoid spooking him. Men like him don't run forever. They hide, they wait, and eventually, they make a mistake. By the time he was officially named a suspect, he was long gone. His apartment was half empty, but he hadn't fled alone. He'd taken the teenage girl with him, someone vulnerable and easy to control. License plate readers tracked their path across the country, gas stations, rest stops, cheap motels paid in cash. He was moving fast, but not smart. A clerk remembered him arguing over a receipt. A security camera caught the girl looking terrified. Meanwhile, his old search history revealed months of planning. How to disappear, how to avoid tracking, how long DNA survives under fingernails. Then, the forensic results came in. DNA from the victim's body matched her husband. Every lie collapsed. A nationwide alert was issued, but weeks passed with no arrest. People began to wonder if he'd gotten away. But fugitives get careless. They get tired, and sometimes they want to be seen. Months passed, then nearly a year. To the public, the case went cold, but behind the scenes, the hunt never stopped. Investigators knew he had assumed a new identity. They started noticing fake names popping up in databases. TD to short-term, cash-paying, jobs construction, warehouse work, anything to avoid a background check. In a small town, thousands of miles away, a man matching his description rented a quiet house. Neighbors found him polite, helpful, but forgettable. He had blended in perfectly. He had built a new life, but one detail brought it all crashing down. He got married. A legal marriage requires fingerprints and verification. The system flagged it. At first, it looked like a glitch, but a closer look at the data confirmed the match. Same height, same scars, same behavioral profile. The man who had vanished was living openly under a new name. Federal agents moved in quietly. They watched his routine for days. On the morning of the arrest, they approached him calmly, using his fake name. He answered. Then they said his real one. His face went blank. Not with anger or panic, but with silent recognition. He knew. As he was cuffed, an agent asked, "Did you really think you'd outrun this forever?" He didn't answer. After years of running, he was finally out of places to hide. Extradition was swift. No public statements. No dramatic speeches. He was flown back in silence. When he entered the courtroom, people barely recognized him. Shorter hair, different posture, older, but the eyes were the same. Cold, detached. The prosecution didn't rush. They started with the timeline, phone records, location, data, financial trails. Each piece was small on its own. Together, they formed a wall. Then came the digital evidence. Deleted messages recovered. Search history reconstructed. Notes that showed planning, not panic. The defense tried to shift blame. They suggested manipulation. Poor mental health, bad influences. It didn't work. Witnesses took the stand, one by one. Friends who had been lied to. Investigators who followed the trail for years. Experts who explained how the crime scene had been staged. The most powerful moment came quietly. A single photograph, the last confirmed image of her alive. The courtroom went still, no obit, no arguments. Just reality. When it was time for him to speak, he stood slowly. He didn't apologize. He didn't explain. He said only one sentence. I did what I thought I had to do. The judge didn't hesitate. The sentence was life. No parolia, no reductions, no second chance. As he was led away, there was no outburst. No tears, just the sound of chains on the floor. Outside the courthouse, her family spoke briefly. They didn't talk about revenge. They talked about closure. Justice didn't bring her back, but it stopped him from ever doing it again, and that was enough. After the verdict, the courtroom emptied fast. Cameras shut off. Reporters moved on to the next headline, but for the people closest to the case, nothing felt finished. Evidence boxes were sealed and archived, yet questions still lingered. Not about who did it, about how long it went unnoticed. Investigators later admitted something uncomfortable. The signs had been there early on. Subtle control, isolation, fear masked as loyalty. None of it screamed danger on its own. Together, it was a warning no one fully heard. Internal reviews followed. Procedures were updated. Missing person timelines were rewritten. Digital evidence protocols changed. The case quietly reshaped how future investigations would begin. For the community, the abandoned house was demolished. No memorial, no marker, just empty land, returned to silence. Friends stopped driving past it. Parents warned their children without explaining why. Her name came up less often in conversation, but not in memory. For her family, grief changed shape. The sharp pain softened into something heavier, something permanent. They learned to live around it. Birthdays were harder than anniversaries. Ordinary days hurt more than court dates. They chose not to give interviews anymore. They said everything they needed to say. What remained was a story people would keep retelling, not because it was shocking, but because it showed how easily truth can hide in plain sight, and how patience, even when it takes years, can still bring the truth back to the surface. The case was closed, but its shadow stayed. Years passed. The world moved forward. New cases replaced old ones. New faces filled the news. But this story never truly faded, because it wasn't just about a crime. It was about trust, and how Isalia can be used as a weapon. The man responsible tried to erase his past. New name, new life, new promises. But guilt does not reset. It waits. Quiet, patient, unforgiving. When the truth finally caught him, there was no dramatic chase, no final speech. Just handcuffs and silence. In court, he didn't look like a monster. That's what made it unsettling. He looked ordinary. That's the part people remember most. Evil doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it smiles. The victim never got to grow older. Never got a second chance. But her story did something powerful. It exposed lies. It corrected mistakes. It forced accountability. Because justice delayed is still justice found. And because truth, no matter how deeply buried, always finds a way back. This wasn't just a case. It was a reminder. Pay attention. Ask questions. Trust your instincts. Because sometimes, the danger isn't a stranger in the dark. It's the person everyone thought was safe. Pause. If this story stayed with you, share it. Not for shock. Not for views, but so it's never forgotten.